All right. Well, I am here today with Emily from M&L Organics, and I am so excited to chat with you a little bit about your experience in our coaching program. Do you want to just kind of give a little bit of an overview of where you were before we started working together and some of like the big stressors that you've had around your money?
Sure. So I had no serious bookkeeping system to speak of. I had no clue what my numbers were. I had no understanding of cash flow or P&Ls in terms of like how it related to my business, which really meant that I felt like every time I was buying something, I was just looking at the money in the bank and saying like, well, the money's there to cover that bill, so I guess it's good. But it also meant that I couldn't make any future decisions and feel like I was making them with really solid numbers behind me. And that just created so much stress all the time, because every time I went to sit down to deal with like New York sales tax, it was this massive amount of number crunching and not having a system. It felt like I was constantly reinventing the wheel every time I had to do something around numbers. And so I just avoided everything, which also made me feel completely out of control. And having that feeling compounded by a pandemic and not having any idea how things were going to pan out all year, it was like, why add more anxiety to your already extreme anxiety? And it also made me feel like a super unprofessional business owner, because I was like, I really need to get my act together. Like this is now stopping me from making better decisions, which is stopping me from growing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it can be so frustrating when you don't feel like you're feeling like you're constantly playing catch up and like trying to catch up with your numbers and catch up on your bookkeeping and spending hours trying to figure out your tax stuff and all of that stuff. And it sounds like now that we've done our work together in all of our sessions, what are some of the main like big takeaways and some of the big like, oh, thank God things that happened with you in our program?
So one of the huge things was finally allocating money to pay myself, which was something I never quite understood when I could start. Like, what did those numbers look like? And setting up that system based on percentages so that I could put money away aside to pay myself. I could put money away for taxes. And then I could also have this sort of pool of money for operating expenses was, I mean, it's just totally game changing in terms of like how the energy flows between the business and me. It's like, oh, the business is actually paying me, you know, and I now know how I can grow it and like how I can make decisions around those numbers. Catching up with my books and feeling like I can go in, and I was actually looking at my numbers yesterday with all the new PPP funding coming through. And I was like, oh, okay, well, let's start looking at these numbers.
Yeah. Okay.
Life in 2020. And I feel so much more confident about it. I can go into my books. I know where my money's going. I know where it's coming from. I can sort it. I can manipulate the numbers in like a good way, not like a cook the books way. You know, but like I can play around with things. I'm not scared of it anymore. And it just makes me feel like I'm in such a different place. And I was a little skeptical. You were like, 5 weeks, it'll be great. And I'm like, I don't know. I'm like a hot mess of bookkeeping. So I'm not sure, like, but okay. You were like, this could be fun. And I was totally shocked. I was like, wow, 5 weeks. I didn't lose sleep over it. I wasn't like, you know, totally nauseous from stress over it. It was just like, oh yeah, you know, I loved being able to ask all my questions and be like, but what about this? What about this? What about this? And you're like, oh yeah, we got that. Oh, we got that. Okay, let's do this, this, and this. And you know, I just feel like, yeah, of course I can do my books now. And it's not intimidating. Like every week I'm like, all right, it takes me 20 minutes a week to do my books.
So awesome.
It took me 40 minutes to do, like, once I had to do, you know, quarterly stuff with sales tax and COGS, but all my COGS are accounted for through November. Like, my sales taxes was paid 3 weeks early. Like, it's just totally mind-blowing, game-changing. I sing your praises constantly. I'm like, I know.
Well, and it's so amazing because, like you said, you were thinking like, oh, are we going to have enough sessions together to cover everything? And the beauty of it is, you know, each one had kind of its own theme when we met, but at the same time, like, there was plenty of room to answer questions that you had before and answer questions that came up during the process. So like when we look at like all the things we accomplished, I mean, the list is huge, and that was so awesome to see.
It was really, and I think something else I really appreciated was you totally got the emotional side of money and like how much anxiety goes into that, especially as a business owner, of like, am I making enough? Why isn't my business growing? Like all of these things that get wrapped up into your books. And I think in many ways has stopped me before, especially here in New York. Like you meet accountants and you feel like you're being judged against awful New York standards. And I loved that, like, you understood as a business owner yourself that this was a huge component of it. And it added to the sort of fear and the scariness and the stress of it all. And I remember our first call together, I was like, yep, I just like her as a human being and she gets it. Like she just gets it. So having that comfort level, and that also opened the door for me to be able to be like, okay, but I don't understand this. And like, what about this? And all those questions that came up through it. And also having that great system through Asana that you had set up. Like, it was just so organized. Like you were just like, all right, here's what we're going to do. And I'm going to deal with this. And here's your homework. And I'm like, okay. This is awesome.
So good to hear. I want to make it easy, and I want to make it like as least stressful for you, instead of just saying, okay, do all these things and giving you a massive list and having you feel overwhelmed. It's like when we worked together, I was doing a ton behind the scenes so that you didn't have to try to wade through it yourself, you know, on your own and get frustrated and overwhelmed. So that was good. That's good to hear. I love that.
Yeah, no, it definitely, you were so organized, and like, I never felt like we missed anything at any point. And like it, even my mom will be like, but did you talk about it? I'm like, oh yeah, we covered that. And she's like, you have an answer for me? And I'm like, oh yeah, I can tell you off the top of my head because Megan taught me. Oh, here, let me go look at my numbers. And she's like, what? This woman's a miracle worker. Like, what did you do with my daughter? Because my mom's been there through like my crazy spreadsheets and my shoe boxes and like, you know, receipts, and me going, I don't know how to do this. And, you know, for me to be able to be like, oh yeah, Megan taught me that.
So awesome.
It definitely totally changed things.
So good. Well, one of my favorite things that you said was, now you feel like your numbers and your money isn't something that's holding you back anymore, and that you can actually see how you can grow your business instead of just looking at like right this second of, I can afford this expense or I can't afford this expense. But now you can look at your numbers and actually see how to make decisions for your business so that you can grow and make forward decisions. And I think that's so powerful. And you can see it like when you're talking about your numbers. In our first call, I remember you were like, oh, don't judge me, I feel like I'm a hot mess. And now you're, I mean, look at you, you're confident and you just feel really good about it, which is so awesome.
I think something else that has really changed for me, which I didn't quite expect, was, you know, I've had a lot of people over the years ask me like, well, what are your goals? And in terms of numbers, and I've never been able to answer them. Like, how big do you want your business to be? And I'm like, I don't really know, because I don't really understand how my numbers are working behind the scenes. And, you know, I've never wanted to be one of those small businesses that like gets acquired by P&G and, you know, I make multi-millions off of it. But it really solidified for me, like, okay, I can grow. Understand how I can grow and stay small, but also be profitable and really keep a tight knit circle. And so it really gave me a much more solid standing of being like, yes, I'm a small business and I understand like what I need to make in order to pay myself and like how to play around with those numbers and, figure it out based on all of the systems that you set up for me. And I'm like, yeah, I can do this. This is more feasible now in my mind. And I think that has totally changed things because now I can just say like, yeah, I'm not going to go wade into this huge project, or I'm actually going to do something very small and very targeted and different. And I'm confident because I know what's going on behind the scene with my numbers. So that's definitely, I'm like, wow, how do we do all this in 5 weeks?
Oh, that's so awesome. That's the best. Like, I'm so proud of you and all of the work that you put in. And one of the best things about working together is when I did give you homework and I said, hey, these are the things that have to be done the next time. I mean, you were on it. And like that made it so much easier because you were so actionable with all the things that you needed to accomplish in order for us to get the most out of our sessions. And I think you were so ready and it was the right time. And you were like, let's do this. And we did, and it turned out so awesome.
It also feels really good to like know that 2020, for all of its chaos and just totally upending our lives, it I was thinking back yesterday on it. I'm like, 2020 is also the year that I got my act together with my bookkeeping. 2020 is also the year that I reevaluated my marketing. It was like, these are really good things that I needed to do anyway. And I guess it took a pandemic to finally be like, get your act together. And yeah, I mean, I really saw working with you as an investment, both in my business, but also in myself. So I was like, if you're going to give me homework, I'm going to do it because like, why not? It's just shooting myself in the foot, basically, if I didn't do my homework. But I loved how like homework was broken down by what we had talked about in our sessions. And so I knew exactly like where I needed to go with everything. Like you were super clear about it.
Awesome. Cool. Well, it's been so fun talking to you. And I just thank you so much for all of the great words, and the testimonial I think is just amazing, and it's such a good indicator of the things that you can accomplish in such a short amount of time when it is really focused and organized. Tell us a little bit about where people can find more out about you and your business. Emily's stuff is amazing. I ordered some for myself, and then I of course ordered some for stocking stuffers for gifts. And it's especially in the winter months because it's winter right now. Like the lip stuff's been awesome. The hand cream is amazing.
I know the lip balm is like always on my desk. Mm-hmm. Usually there's hand cream around too, but things float around, my house. And so we're at EMANDEL.organics.com, EMANDEL organics.com, and everything's available there.
Awesome. Cool. Well, you guys check it out because Emily's stuff, like I said, is amazing. It's organic. I even have like the face mask and it was so awesome. I love it so much. So thank you. I appreciate it so much for your time. And I'm sure we will be chatting again soon.
Yes. And thank you for all your work. Like I just kept thinking, I'm like, God, why didn't I meet Megan sooner? Like, I feel like you need to be in business 101 for every single entrepreneur because it's really totally game changing.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. We'll talk to you soon.
Sounds good.